My name is Chris Miller. I'm an emergency response case manager at Solid Blend, and I am basically the guy that shows up when there's a Legionella emergency response. Before this, I worked in water treatment in different areas and never in an emergency responder type situation. So that was different, and it made me care a lot more. So when you hear somebody's in need and you can be there within 4 hours and supply them with the information they need to calm them down and let them know that you know how to fix the situation, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get you through this. I was on my way back from a previous response, and my operations manager, Doug, had received a call. I believe it was around the 12 o'clock time frame as I was on my way back, stating that there was a large client with a rehabilitation or nursing home that was in need of our services. What happens in Ohio State is at a nursing facility or a hospital, someone will come down with pneumonia. They almost always will give a urine antigen test that checks for Legionnaire's disease. If that test is positive, then the state is notified and they will look at a timeline. And if this presumptive case had anything to do with that facility, they're going to run a full Legionella case investigation, which is basically my job. Well, they had gotten the notification from the state. They did their samples. Ended up there was a very large problem. Legionella was all throughout their system, and all they had was reports. So the way we remediated the situation was with our experience. I knew that was a bad situation to be in, but I didn't just know, yes, you have a lot of Legionella. I know what we're going to do next to get rid of it. So we brought the client at ease. They were, of course, stressed out because the state says you can no longer use your water. When they know that you have 3,000 CFUs or colony-forming units of bacteria in your potable water, you can no longer use that water. You can't shower our retired citizens with that water. So you will have to have filters in place, and that's what we do. Within 24 hours, basically the next morning, we had over 400 filters. They had received the call from the state. After the call, we had arranged for me to provide a leaf assessment, that kind of assistance, and kind of a funny story because they asked, how quickly can you be here? And I said, I'm actually in your parking lot right now. And that was pretty helpful for them. But we have a kind of a knack for doing that at Solid Blend. We know that when there's a possibility that we might be needed, we're there. And we could be anywhere in the state within 4 hours. That's a true story of one time we were there before they knew they needed us. Well, they got the notification that they could no longer use their water sometime in the morning of that Thursday. We received a call that, hey, we've just been notified at about 12 o'clock that day. Meanwhile, I had met for a meeting at 2 o'clock, 2 hours later in their parking lot. The next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, they had filters. So within 24 hours, we had the filters at the facility. That's kind of unusual. I can have them anywhere by the next morning. But the filters were there the next day. Their team begins installing them. I proceed with a CDC leaf assessment to get them back on track with the case investigation. And this all happened within a 24-hour period. I was at another facility down south where they were almost in shock, the fact that they did not have this on their radar. They didn't have a water management plan. They had no idea that if someone were to get sick with Legionnaire's disease, these state protocols that they were going to have to go through, and nobody knew what to do. And told them we go through this all the time. I'll come down there. I was there within a couple hours, I think 2 hours. And I had a meeting with all the directors of the facility and went through line by line the letter they received from the state, what it actually means to them. You know, the testing, the results, what to do in case of the results, the water restrictions, remediation. You know, sometimes you're going to be using chlorine, hyperchlorite to clean the system. Other times you're going to be using something more effective like monochloramine, which is a longer process. There's timelines on each of these steps. You know, everybody wants to get off water restrictions as soon as possible, and everybody thinks there's a magic way to do that, but there isn't. And you just have to slowly progress through these things using the LEAF assessment, which is a Legionella environmental assessment form from the CDC. That helps me pinpoint areas of the building that may have problems, and I'll correspond that with, you know, hot water temperatures. Are they in range with what the CDC says they should be safely in that range? If not, then maybe we trace that back to the next step. Maybe it's their hot water tanks. Other times it can be something much trickier. But once we start progressing through that, now we can start to solve the problem. But the main thing is everybody's safe. Yes, you have Legionella, but now you have a physical barrier between you and the bacteria. You can go about your business while we solve the problem. And you typically have about 3 months to get that accomplished. Once people know that you have been through it before and you have knowledge that's going to help them get through it, the whole temperature changes and everybody's a lot more relaxed, and a lot of questions start coming at that point. Not too many people have been through this experience of a case investigation and the response from the state shutting down your water and all the testing and protocols that go with that. It's pretty scary if you've never been through that before. So there's a lot of thanks. I mean, there really is, because it's a pretty specific knowledge set to have. And we have that because we've been doing it so long, and it's a great relief for them. And at the end, we usually have some sort of donut party. And then we check in every 3 months or so, and everybody's a lot more interested in their water testing after that also. Ohio being number 2 in the nation is easy for us to feel. I've had more case responses this year than any other time. I think Solid Blends, we were involved in more cases in the first quarter of this year than we were all of last year. So we're only in quarter 2. And I'm currently juggling 2 case investigations right now, and the next one is inevitably right around the corner. What makes Solid Blend the best people to call in these situations is the fact that we have actively been participating in these cases since they started out.